Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Mind Muscle HQ podcast. Today we are going to do a Q&A section. We've received some questions and we're going to go through those. But before we do, let's introduce the guys. You know them by now. We've got Jamie and Tyler.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
Hey, and I'm Matt. So guys, how has your week been? Jamie, tell us what have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a solid week. I've been basically rebuilding and restructuring a lot of how I do things as a coach. There's a new coaching platform coming. I'm building that amazing Excel food list, if I don't mind myself saying that, into a subscription service. So that will become a service where coaches will hopefully be able to use it for their clients, so they can actually track intolerances for their clients and use it as almost like a MyFitnessPal.
I want it.
Yeah, I've got it's a lot. Joe, when I thought he had a great idea and when I actually looked into doing it, I was like, wow, this is going to take a lot of time. So it will be something that's part of my coaching service, but also like a subscription thing as well. And I'm also looking into making a community-based coaching setup where it's like more than like you're coaching everyone at once together, so they actually understand what's going on. You can talk to each other about your issues and stuff. Like basically, it's a big group-based thing. And yeah, building on my client portal. There's basically a lot of things that are changing. And I'm looking to open a blood work analysis consultation program where I kind of guide people to optimal health without one-to-one coaching, or just guidance when they need it. So there's a lot of changing, and also me building my first ever off season that I've actually been able to run properly. It's like the first time I've eaten close to 3,000 calories a day without it backfiring and causing a lot of water retention. So it's a lot of exciting stuff, really.
What kind of timelines are you talking with some of this stuff? Are we going to get stuff in the next couple of weeks, or is it months, or you know?
I've been so I'm in, obviously we're in the cartridge industry, which we spoke about last week. I've got about a 30 to 40 day deadline on the new coaching platform. Basically, my whole business model, my whole coaching process is being rebuilt from the ground up. It's a lot of work. The food side of things, I'm incredibly OCD with stuff like this. So I'm running a prototype on myself now, and I can't tell you how amazing it is to have a tablet and you just press the food you want, the amount of protein you need, and it obviously I know the foods because it's all handwritten what I know, but it's nice to have that a constant calculator there without having to keep going back and forward and writing it yourself. But yeah, that prototype's working incredibly well and I'm very proud of it. So I just basically have to get that put on a system. But what I'm really hoping it will be is, so say for example, you were using it as a coach, you can have client portfolios. So you could have Dave, Betty, Doris, each one of them you press, you have their macros in there. And then when they're choosing foods, the low, moderate, or risk to intolerance and like histamine, stuff like that. And it will basically be it's my version of MyFitnessPal is in a calculating tool, and it's specific as hell as well. And it also gives you basically me on papers. Every food you choose, you'll get my opinion on what that food could do if you had specific issues, also deficiencies. So if you had iodine issues for a blood test and your thyroid was lacking, things like seafood is going to be amazing. Things like kelp's going to be amazing, stuff like that.
So could I'm not sure if you've used the application Chronometer, but would it be something similar to that, in the sense that it identifies kind of percentages and food types which would be rich in certain minerals and vitamins? And
I don't know how far I'm going to take it to that extent in terms of ratios, because that will be a lot, and like each sheet will be a lot. For me, it's more of helping people become more aware of intolerances. So I've spent more time building the low, moderate risk to intolerance. So if you chose pineapple and you have basophil issues on a blood test, or you get itchy skin, pineapple's probably not going to help you. If you have low stomach acid, pineapple's not going to help you. Those sort of things.
I mean, that sounds epic in a sense of kind of like a new tool that I'm not aware of. That would be useful for.
Well, I've been banned from my so I showed 2 of my business mentors and my actual mentor it, and all of them have banned me from sharing it with a soul until it's on a contract, because they're that confident it's going to be amazing for people. Because they said if you share that anyway and someone takes it, you're screwed. So I'm guarding it with my life, basically.
Good idea. Okay, well that sounds awesome, and looking forward to actually seeing that working, Jamie. So well done there. And Tyler, how's your week been? What have you been up to?
So my week's going good. I'm now back to weight training, off my deload from last week, and energy levels are back to normal, which is good. Strength levels are in a good place as well, and just training feels good again. That deload was definitely needed. the motivation was just lacking a little bit. I was really having to push more to get to the gym, where now I'm running to the gym. So I think it's just being in tune with your body and actually taking a step back and taking some time to recover, which is what I've done. So training's going well, and I'm working on just my Alpha Life program still. So still working on the back end of that, and possibly looking at doing a 2 yearly meetup with everyone that's on the Alpha Life program, so we can all meet up and actually do, just get together as a community almost and do something pretty cool, like maybe climb, Scaffold Pike or, one of the mountains, and do something together outside to build confidence, to meet people, and to just bring people together, because sometimes within fitness you can feel quite isolated, that you're on your own and there's no one there to support you. A lot of people do feel like that, and it's just about bringing it together, which is what I'm working on doing this year. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
So the Alpha Life program, then, what is, so just briefly, if someone enters that program, is that like a monthly program? Is it a 12-week program? Is it, like you said, is it an ongoing monthly, and it can be like people stay for years on end? How does it work?
Yeah, it's an initial 8 weeks that people will go through, and that's basically to build the foundations of strength, stamina, endurance, and actually building some structure within people's lives. And then from that, you need to make it through that 8 weeks and get the commitment in there. And I'm kind of there to help guide you and keep you on the right tracks. At the end of that 8 weeks, we then set a structure moving forward and set a goal plan and actually put it to a time scale, because I've actually found a lot of people's goals aren't always, I want to lose weight or build muscle. Some people are, into all kinds of different things, martial arts, or they want to do strongman, or there's a lot of different varieties, and it's just catering things that actually I've now got the framework where I can succeed and progress against these goals, from being at square zero, square one, to actually now I've got a purpose, I've got a plan, and I'm going to go and smash it.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the common denominator with many fitness goals is often weight loss, is no fat loss. But I am seeing a trend for people wanting to do more things, like the assault course things, like Tough Mother and these kind of things. They're becoming more challenge aspect as opposed to just beauty orientated or physique orientated, which is good, because it makes our jobs more interesting than just becoming a fat loss coach. To be able to work with someone who ultimately, they might have a double goal, in the sense that they want to look better, but they mentally want to feel stronger. They also want to feel physically stronger and physically fit, and they want to maybe feel achievement in life through completing an assault course or running a marathon or going into a strongman competition or whatever it is. I am seeing more and more people taking on bigger goals than just vanity driven goals.
Yeah, I think it's important that you do look good, but you actually feel even better, and it's just trying to help people achieve that. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot of people that do just want to lose body fat, but I think when someone achieves something like maybe dropping a stone in body fat, then why not look at maybe doing a photo shoot or a fitness shoot? And having a goal like that, it just makes the process and the motivation so much more stronger, that you succeed better once you've got that goal in place.
I think it's a... Go on, Matt, sorry.
Oh, you go on.
I was going to say, this is it's quite funny, because I mentioned about the new thing I'm building. It's exactly tailored to what you just said. So as most of you probably get the vibe, I'm very OCD with my coaching process. So I want to know your HRV, your heart rate, your blood sugar, everything, blood pressure, everything I want to know. And that can be incredibly overwhelming. And any bodybuilding coach will know that for us, it's the norm. Like, it's normal to look at my Oura ring every morning. Just to get someone to literally track their weight on a scale faster in the morning can be a big step for some. So this is why I've gone down the route of making an almost stripped back, more group-based setup for those people that want to they just want to feel better. They don't want to know if their blood sugar is optimal. They just want to feel better. They want to know what foods work for them. They want that guidance from someone like that without the OCD approach and without it being overwhelming. And this is where, like you've just done, Tyler, you build a process, which is obviously what I'm in the process of building as well, where it's catering to them, not the masses, that's the wrong word, but you're catering to people that are dedicated. They don't want it to become their life. They have a job, they have kids. They don't want to care more about their blood sugar than they do their kids in the morning and stuff like that. And this is why I think it's important to almost have the best of both worlds. The really dedicated people that want an extreme goal, or they want to chase extreme results. Like even a serious holiday prep can be extreme in some scenarios. Or those people that just want to drop half a kilo to a kilo a week if they're quite overweight and inflamed, and they just want to understand how to be healthier without the need to go like filling in spreadsheets every day and stuff like that. And I think it's a nice balance to find those two, like you said, and it's good for a coach to do that. It's taken me 6 years to realize that. Hence why I'm building something new now, and it's important to know that.
It's exciting though, isn't it? It's good.
It is exciting. Yeah, there is a part of you that feels, am I like doing less? But you're not, because you're actually helping those people more by not overwhelming them. And that will actually create lifestyle habits that don't have to be anal about their blood sugar every morning or like heart rate, HRV. They just want to feel better and function better, Not everyone wants to be a data freak that quotes everything every day on a sheet, And I think it's amazing that you can basically help anyone on the planet. And it's not about overwhelming, it's about tailoring you. And the best analogy I ever heard was, if you were a BMW driver and you went to a car showroom and they tried to force a pickup truck on you, you're not going to buy it. It doesn't, even though the pickup truck's just as good in its own right and what it does, it's not a BMW what you want. And it's the same thing with this. Like, you may want to get a result, but you don't want to go down the route of an extreme bodybuilder approach. You just want someone to guide you with the basics, basically, and the basics work, as we know full well. So a bit of a rant there, but I think it's good.
This is something, hold on, you will actually quite like this. I've got it written on my hand because it came to my head when I was training, and I had my little logbook out and I was like, I need to write this shit down. So you will like this. It's a little quote and it says, every type of creation needs time. How 100%. Cool is that?
Nice, absolutely.
Like,
and you can't rush it either.
That quote, we use reference to that in every podcast almost around planning and using that time wisely. So it does take time. So you had to follow the quote. One of the things I've been thinking about in the last week, particularly, I've thought about it a few times before, but for a large percentage of my working time within the industry, I qualified as a PT many years ago, and then worked as a PT. And if you take the role of a PT, and I suppose everyone's go-to when they go to a gym is, can I start personal training sessions? That's the first step that most people think is the right step to take in order to achieve a goal. So that they'll go to a PT and say, I want PT sessions, but without ever discussing the goal, without ever discussing the timelines, without ever setting any constraints or without checking progress.
It's not even personal.
So you go into a PT to achieve something, but you're not tracking how well you're progressing. You're not tracking any progression almost. And a PT is just like a weekly stop point. It's just like an hour's of that PT's time. And for me personally, I was thinking, and this is no disrespect to anybody, I'm not trying to discredit any personal trainers or personal training world. I just think that as a person, if you've got a goal, if you want to achieve something, you can't expect that PT to do that in an hour a week.
But then I would say it's that PT's obligation, if they truly cared about their clients and their career, and I don't mean to dig here, but I hope it wakes some people up, that you almost combine a hybrid of online and PT. If you're a PT and you don't combine the two, where you're doing some, not even check-ins because they can do that when they see you, but you're not gathering data and you're just doing that 1 hour, we all know that's going to do jack all for the individual. But if you truly cared about getting results, which at the end of the day are the bread and butter for our crafts, then you need to combine the two. So if you're a PT that's not doing that, whether it's a separate package or what, I would strongly recommend you do, because it's going to massively change how you get results. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, when you do your PT qualifications, you don't learn that element of the business. And so most PTs who are qualified, they wouldn't understand how to do that anyway. So I mean, what we always talk about in this podcast is about achieving results. And the thing that I was thinking about is, rather than just someone coming to me and saying, can I do 2 PTs a week? It has to be on a different approach, a more complete approach. You're only by just doing 2 PTs a week, you're only really looking at one element of that, and that is the training. But it's not contained within a program. That it's just literally separate training. Whether that's going to achieve a goal or not, you don't know. So ultimately, what you should be doing is not offering PT sessions. What you should be doing is saying, the consultation, what are you trying to achieve? Why do you want to do the PT sessions? Do you need to achieve something in a certain timeline? And so it becomes a coaching package of a kind, so that if someone does want to lose weight, or they want to get ready for a wedding or a birthday or whatever it is, that the PT then can say, okay, so my recommendation would be that, you need to look at your diet, you need to look at your training, you need to measure progress. And the PT can take on that, or the client can take that on. But the discussion needs to take place so that you are achieving a goal. And it's that understanding between the client and the PT that needs to take place. Because, when I've looked at previous clients in the past, when they've just been doing PT sessions with me, and we've been doing it for like 18 months, it's just become a routine. They've not actually achieved anything. When you look back at it and you go, well, what have we achieved? Well, I've got to know them and the dogs' names and the kids' names, and we've become a bit more friends. But actually, achievement in a goal, we haven't done that. They may have got stronger, they may have got a bit fitter, but that's just general over time. Yeah, over time, it wasn't in a progressive plan, or it wasn't in a timeline. It just happened. And I think I've been really thinking about, going forward, any communication with a client has to be goal driven. We have to understand what the goal, why they're doing it. And it might just be that they just want to get out the house and do a PT. The goal might be, listen, I'm bored in the house and I want to do a little bit of exercise. I've got no specific physique goals or fitness goals. I just like doing exercise, and I enjoy doing PTs with you, and that'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's different, because they're those really busy entrepreneurs. They're like, look, I know I need to do this. Unless I book you in my calendar, I'm not going to do it. So that's very different. But if you had a goal, obviously, it's always remembering that PT is a training qualification, right? And training is one of freaking many variables: diet, nutrition, lifestyle, supplementation, health markers, all these things. New training is, I think I mentioned before, I have a guy called Dean who throughout lockdown dropped 12 kilos, he's way above that now, and he still hasn't gone to a gym. And that was when lockdown started this year. He still hasn't gone to a gym, but he was quite inflamed and quite overweight, bless him. But again, it's because of lockdown life. So it's an important variable. I'm not slagging that off. And if you want to build a physique, obviously it's crucial. But if you're just someone who wants to feel better and function better, you need to remember that's one of many variables. So if you're just focusing on that one variable, you're missing a trick. And you have to remember that. I always see PT, or even coach, anything really, is you're being hired, that someone's approached you for your knowledge and your service. Why not work to make that as optimal as possible? Blow the pants off your client. Make them look at you and respect you, not from an egotistical standpoint, but be that lighthouse rather than the tugboat trying to pull someone in a certain direction. Be the lighthouse that actually guides them to the right place rather than forcing them. Bit of a hippie way of talking about it, but that's how I always look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I know with my clients, I still do a 1 day a week where I do one-to-one personal training, and that's because I like that day to be hands-on and, be on the gym floor helping people. And I refuse to have someone come in and spend an hour with me where they put in the effort and work really hard to then send them away without any knowledge on, nutrition and how they should eat. And a plan of how we're going to get to their goal around the 23 hours that they're not with me. Like, every client of mine one-to-one will go with, food planning and things like that. And that's just me. And that's just because I couldn't send them away for the rest of the 23 hours a day with them not having a clue on what to do next.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a discussion on that though, based around time. If you've got to do something, if you've got to spend additional time as a personal trainer, coach, outside of that hour, then I mean, it's up to you as a business how you do that. But the more time you spend, obviously the higher your rate should become. And if you're incorporating on top of that, monitoring and tracking, as well as nutritional advice and all these other things, that has to come as an additional cost.
I always made it a monthly package. So someone had to do a month. So they get my support and the PTs for a month. That's how I do it. You incorporate it. Yeah, that's how I did it.
That's what I'm talking about is, and I'm trying to set people's expectations here as well. The conversation is to a client and any PTs listening, because sometimes you get to this conundrum where, it's not big money. You have to pay rent to gyms and things like this. And then the client's asking you for nutritional advice. And then you're starting to spend more and more time tracking their weight and looking at planning for next week. And then you're looking at nutrition. And before you know it, you're spending like, in that 1 hour is turning into 2 hours a week, but you're not charging them any extra. So there's, and then the client's expectations are, well, my PT does it all, and then they're getting this service for a lot less. So I'm trying to, set real expectations around from a client's perspective. If you would go in the dentist, you pay for your dentist time. If you then asked him about, could he spend an hour trying to talk about what, I don't know, stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You'd expect to pay him. So
it's that same mindset, isn't it? Well, it only takes you 5 minutes, but it's taking me years to learn how to do that in 5 minutes. It's the same thing. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, and this is if you're someone that's chasing the cheapest PT, you're going to be let down very quickly, because any PT coach, I'm not the cheapest coach in the world, and I happily admit that, because I know my worth. I know what I've studied. I know what I've been through, and like hell, am I charging £100 a month? And if you don't value your health at that investment, but you would happily go spend £5,000 deposit for a new car, then your health's not your priority. So I'm not the coach for you. That's how I look at it. It's not to slag anyone off, as everyone's got their own priorities, right? But I wouldn't work with someone unless their priorities for their health was at least in their top 5 for their day-to-day life, because it's not going to work, and it's going to become a system where you're just taking their money and you're not actually getting anything in return. And I will be honest, from someone that's changed careers to do this, that would eat me alive personally. It wouldn't sit well, and I'd hate my process. Yeah, this is what I mean. There is one thing I always find funny. This is with any trade. Like when I was a mechanic, it was the same. People, when they pay you, they have the mindset of I'm paying you, so I'm the boss. I'm like, no, you're hiring me for my expertise. Like, you're coming to me just because you've paid. Like every coach has had clients that are not the nicest people at some point in their career. When people have that, I've paid you, so you're almost my, I don't want to swear, but I'm basically in control. I'm like, no, you've hired me to help you get from A to B. So it's an investment capability from my knowledge, my experience, this, that, and the other, right? And like, again, going back onto that PT, if you've just qualified, that's a license to learn. Now just work your absolute arse off in learning, studying, hiring mentors is probably the quickest way to learn, rather than read a book, pay the person that wrote the book to teach you about the book. I find that much easier, and then working from there. So yeah, I think it's the quicker people with PTs realize that, the quicker the industry is going to change and become a lot more of a pleasant place and less of a money grabbing, corrupt place, without going on a bit of a rant there.
Hey Matt, what have you been up to this week anyway?
Yeah, what about you, Matt? Jeez.
Well, so I kind of made a decision. I did put it on Instagram as should I, or what do people think? And it was unanimous. I should probably, basically start a prep phase. I was expecting to have my hips done this year, so that kind of has left me in limbo, trying to wait for the date. But there's been a nightmare with the GPs, and I won't go into that story. But basically, it set it back. So the chances of it happening this year are probably absolute zero. So what that's done is it's given me the rest of this year to kind of really focus on a goal for myself. And I already was, in preparation for the operation, bringing my weight right down, so that I was in a really good position to go under anesthesia. So I just decided there is 15 weeks left of prep season, and potentially get ready for a show in December. So yeah, my prep started this week, which hasn't been a huge change. It just puts kind of the barriers up. It means that psychologically things change. My diet is pretty much the same. I have put meals on my stories this week, so I'll put every single meal on, but it's going to be repetitive, to be honest. I've started my prep at around 2,700 calories, which sounds quite low, but my activity is quite low. Apart from my training twice a day, my steps are really, really low, and my active movement is low. So, which has meant that my calories have come quite low, which is, for me, 2,700 is fairly low. But my intention really is to hold the 2,700, but aiming for pushing my steps up. I'm not going to start cardio yet, just try and get my steps up to around the 10,000 mark, and then take it from there.
That will improve digestion as well, and there'll be a lot of markers that will improve just in that one slight change as well.
Yeah. So
you've got a lot of movement with that as well. Then, if you haven't got much kind of physical activity other than training, you've got so much to play with in terms of tools to bring levels down, haven't you? So that's actually a really good position.
Yeah, and I can potentially see as the activity goes up, the calories will probably start.
I was going to say that. I think you'll be taking calories away for quite some time. Yeah.
No. So it's all.
Are you doing it yourself, or are you working with Joe?
Yeah, me and Joe, because we see each other every day.
Okay.
We are going to be tracking things. Joe is in the driving seat. He's going to be guiding me. So you can't do it on your own. It's got to be a two-man job. So I did speak with him this week, and he said gladly help me. So yeah, he's on board, and we're going to be doing it together. So yeah, I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a good goal. I'm looking forward to watching and hearing the updates and listening to the journey.
I mean, the show, with everything, all the uncertainty around traveling and things, but come December, it might not actually happen, but, I'm still going to go for it. And if the show doesn't take place, then, we spoke about it already, the opportunity for a photo shoot exists. So we're driving towards something anyway. The end game is there.
And a huge refeed on Christmas Day. There you go. That's a different level of earning your Christmas dinner, isn't it?
What about this though? But I want a controlled refeed, and Christmas Day could turn into like a 15,000 calorie day. On the back end,
carb loading and protein loading all one day.
Anything goes. I don't want that scenario, because I've done that once, and I put on 32 pounds in a week. So,
that's an achievement. I don't know what that is in kilos, but it sounds a lot.
I know, yeah. I put 32 pounds in a week. Wow. Which is not healthy whatsoever.
Yeah. A lot of that though, Matt, it will have been weight though, won't it? A lot.
And a huge health risk.
You really swell up a bit.
Yeah.
It's crazy because me and Tyler are building calories and you're dropping down, so you're going to be one posting loads of shirtless shit while me and Tyler are hiding behind hoodies.
Yeah, no, this is I'm wearing some big black t-shirts at the minute. I quite like it. I'm hiding under them while I'm growing.
To be honest, I'm going to keep myself covered up anyway for the majority of it. I feel better in myself doing that anyway, because I think if we constantly, and this is a little bit of advice I give to most of my clients, particularly when you're getting leaner and leaner, and you can see more like conditioning and the shreds coming through, you want to take your top off and you want to train in the gym with your vest on, and you want to show people and you want to put your pictures up. From a competitive perspective, I got this advice from Tom Platt, best to stay off the radar, because what's better is the surprise on stage and showing people what you've got on stage than them getting bored with seeing your physique every single day and almost being like kind of nullified by it. It's not impressive anymore.
Dorian Yates did, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
No one knew who, and the Mountain Dog, obviously.
Everyone will be wanting to see, well, what's it been doing? It's like revealing that, you're not gonna, if you've got a car, you're not gonna show it at every stage with the nuts and bolts going on and the side panels and the paint. You're gonna reveal the end product, and that's kind of how I like to do it myself. And just stay under the cover. You might get the odd check-in pictures showing progress, more so from a business perspective. But yeah, I'm going to try to keep under wraps and let's see what's cooking underneath.
Yeah, that's exciting. Should we roll into some questions that we've had from some of the listeners?
Yes.
Yeah. So this was one that we got put at us, which is, what can be more effective for weight loss, cardio or weight training?
Who's going to pick that up?
I'm going to stay quiet on this one, or I rant forever.
Come on, Matt, you start that off.
Well, me and you, Tyler, can do it, but which is better for fat loss? I mean, the actual answer, if you're going to pick one over the other, is resistance training. But there's but both is a good answer as well, because we combine both for fat loss. Obviously, different goals. Resistance training is aimed at trying to maintain a shape or grow a shape, grow some muscle. But the statistics around, and there's lots and lots of data on this, thousands and thousands of user data around resistance training and fat loss, and resistance training has actually been shown to be better fat loss than cardio. So there's your answer, full stop. Resistance training
it's important to note as well, they said weight loss, but we're taking the answer as fat loss, yeah? Because obviously weight loss, if you chopped your leg off, you'd lose weight, you still wouldn't be happy. So just to clarify.
I always see, anyone says they want to lose weight, I always take it as fat loss, me personally.
It's just in case the listener wasn't aware of that. So.
Yeah.
I think that the metabolic, like what it does to your metabolic system, the ability to burn calories in the long term of doing some weightlifting, like nothing can beat that. The amount of calories that your body's burning, even, studies have shown up to 72 hours after a weight training session. With cardio, it's what is it after cardio? It's not long at all.
It's literally once your heart rate returns to resting. Yeah,
that's it. Where with weight resistance training, you've then got that ongoing burn. But then with the lean muscle, that's almost the machine in the body to then burn more calories in the longer run. So over time, you can actually eat more and burn more.
I mean, there are a lot of factors here. We could discuss this in more detail, because cardiovascular for fat loss as well means that you're staying with a certain heart rate range. So actually, the range that you're staying in for fat loss is actually so low that your heart rate is hardly even going up. Jamie, you can state the ranges, because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Are you referring to fat burning zone and stuff like that?
Fat burning zone and things like that. But to stay in a fat burning zone, it's literally you shouldn't even get out of breath. It's literally just like a really kind
basically walking. Hence why steps are so
moderate
powerful.
walk is what I was going to say. That's your fat burning zone. Anything out of those zones then takes it into different zones, like into fitness, running speed, fitness zones, etc. Also, the other thing that you mentioned about metabolic rate, as we grow more muscle, as we increase muscle tissue, there's a higher metabolic increase anyway, due to muscle trying to maintain that muscle mass, and so we burn more energy just trying to maintain the amount of muscle that we got. So you see, it doesn't matter how tall you are or small you are. If you've got more muscle mass than someone the same size as you, you will burn more energy based on that, trying to retain the muscle mass. So there is benefits alongside that as well. Just trying to hold on the muscle that you've grown it is beneficial. And Jamie mentioned it backstage. about skinny fat. There are lots of pictures where I think I can't remember what decade, but maybe 70s, 80s, even maybe in the 90s, where cardio was huge, and you've got all these runners who are really, really slim and skin, but they've got I'm doing the thing in the video, which you can't see, guys, but they've got the flaps and their arms, the wings,
bingo wings,
wings, and they've just got the loose skin, but they are super thin. And then you've got the ladies not just ladies, you've got the people of the 20s and 2010s, etc., whereby resistance training is becoming more normal, and they've got more muscle tone. The skin is tighter, totally different shapes, but they're still super, super lean. And I think most people's desired physique now has got to be lean with more muscle. And so resistance training is key to that scenario. So,
and it's also important to note that if you're worried about getting too big, all three of us here are trying to get too big. Don't worry about it. That's one thing that a lot of people that aren't aware of this stuff will think, I'm going to get too big. I've got ladies that train 5 days a week, and we're still like, right, you need to get bigger. Like you won't. And these are bikini athletes, by the way. So don't always look at it as soon as you pick up a dumbbell, you're going to explode, because it really isn't that simple. And the best way to explain metabolic rate, the way I explain it, is imagine you had a car. Everyone knows, right, miles per gallon on a car. So the bigger your engine, the more fuel you're going to burn at idle. So if you had a Mustang V8 on idle, you're going to be like 25 miles to the gallon if you were driving that. Whereas if you had like a 1 liter freaking Toyota IQ, the tiny little things, that's going to be like 35, 40, whatever miles per gallon, right? So the best way to explain this is the more muscle you have on your frame, the more fuel your body, so the bigger your engine's going to be, the more fuel you're going to demand on your body at rest. So even if you were laying down, chilling out on Netflix, just to maintain that, the calorie expenditure, just to maintain and tick over your body is always going to be greater with a high amount of muscle mass. That's why when Matt just said that he's at 2,700 calories and that's low, me and Matt both looked at it like, wow, that's quite low. For his level of muscle mass, that is very low. Whereas other people go, wow, that's quite a lot of food. I've got guys that struggle to eat more than 2,000 calories a day. Don't get me wrong, there's other reasons why that occur from a health perspective, but it is down to muscle mass. So the more muscle mass you have, the more food you basically get away with. So driving muscle mass in an off season or just a building phase, even for like 12 or at least a few months, when you diet, you could start dieting at a very high pace. But what we've got to do is add some more steps, like Matt said, or some cardio. You don't even got to touch food, and you can find you'll get leaner very quickly because you're ticking over more. And then you're still supplying your body with nutrients while trying to diet down. And this is the more healthier approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just following on from what you said there, Jamie, with the skinny fat, if you were to just do cardio, that's the image that, you are going to create. Well, if you just, to take that a step back and look at actually why are we using, resistance weight training, it's almost like that's the tools that you're using to define how your body's going to look. Your perceived weak points, maybe you're wanting to grow bigger glutes or rounder shoulders. Once you lose some of that body fat, you're then shaping, defining, toning or building the areas that you are wanting to look good. So that's another tool of using weight training to benefit you. If you just done cardio, you're going to lose body weight and body fat, and you're not going to have that shape that maybe you're looking to achieve.
Well, you need to remember cardio is catabolic. It takes away. So taking away from your physique. And if your body is a use it or lose it mechanism, which this goes for everything, not just muscle tissue, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So say you wanted a bum and you wanted nice round, so ladies want a bum and they want all this like legs and stuff like that, right? So say you did zero weight training and just cardio and you did the cross trainer. There's very little stimuli going through those muscle groups, right? Especially at a fat burning zone or a slow pace. You're in a catabolic state where your body's taking away and you're not stimulating enough to almost say, I need this still. So whatever you take away, don't take it from this place. So This is what resistance training in a deficit is absolutely fundamental to prevent that occurring. So this is why you should still be doing all body to prevent. I'm going to say to your body, right, we're in a deficit. We want it to come from fat or water or inflammation, not from muscle tissue to some extent. That's why we maintain it. So by almost telling your body, we want to keep this, see it as a very black and white way of saying we're trying to keep this while cutting away from this. So that's why combining the two is a better shout. And personally, I wouldn't stay near the fat burning zone. I wouldn't in steps, but I would probably put it up to 130 to 150 beats per minute, because that will actually aid in recovery, burn more calories without needing to diet from food, cut down food, and improve your metabolic function and your mitochondria action. So we're basically supplying more energy to the body in recovery. Just don't overthink it, if I'm honest. And it's easier said than done. But it's when you know it, it's quite simple. It's just looking after the body and not burning it through the ground,
Yeah, the way I like to, when I do like fat burning cardio, which is when I'm leading into a competition, I do that in the morning just because it works for me and my routine before the kids get up. To get in that fat burning zone, it's almost like you can still hold a conversation. You're just not completely out of breath. Like that's what it almost feels like to be in that fat burning zone during cardio. But I think, it is important that cardio does have its place as a tool to use with weight training to achieve the goal that you want them to achieve, especially within fat loss, but it's using it correctly and not overusing it as well. Because again, that's something that we see a lot of people doing, hours on hours of cardio, and they're literally just, burning into the muscle what they've worked hard to create, and that's what we don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think whilst Jamie said keep it simple, I think people, the biggest mistake they make is too much cardio. When they're not tracking things like the steps, some people are doing like 25,000 steps a day and then doing an hour's or more cardio on top of that, which is unless they're eating a hell of a lot of food, is ridiculous, and it becomes not only catabolic but actually stress increasing, which then has negative effects on all the things that you're trying to achieve. So it becomes counterproductive. So that's sometimes it's best when I look. One of the first things I do with most clients is when I look at what they're doing now is I normally pull the cardio back, because they're often 90% of the time doing way too much, and they're not getting results. And when you pull that back, sometimes even increase food, you actually get more results, and they're blown away by what I'm doing less.
It's stress reduction.
It's stress reduction, exactly. That's what it is. The stress response is too high, which is meaning they can't digest the food, which is because they're eating more food, etc., etc., etc. So it's often these little things that you just got to look at. But yeah, there we go.
It's the first thing you learn as an online coach, people, is when your steps go to like 3,000 a day, it's really hard to digest your food, and you realize how much just going for a walk can massively help with digestion, because it improves blood flow all around the body. You're sitting still and you're chucking food on top of a body that's not moving, and I'm talking sensibly, not going for a run. That in itself, like Matt, you'll find that you'll probably find your drop rate really quickly purely from shifting digestion a lot more efficiently just by getting your 10K in a day. Yeah. It is mad what that can do massively.
Okay, so I think we covered that one in quite some detail there. I think that was good. So what was the next one? Was it keto for weight loss?
Yeah, that was it. Advice and opinions on keto for weight loss.
So I know Jamie's going to take this on.
You nominated me. I didn't willingly want it.
It's a good subject.
But I think what I want to say first of all is keto really is just like any other name for a diet. It's a diet name which has literally, it controls calories in a certain way, and all diets control calories in a certain way. Keto, the name keto, it does refer to a process in the body called ketogenesis, but the actual diet keto is still a way of controlling calories. So try not to get blurred or confused by the science on this, and Jamie's going to talk a little bit more in detail about the science, but essentially keto is no different to any other diet that's controlling calories for fat loss in my book. Okay, Jamie, you on, carry on.
I was nominated with his people, so if I go on one, it's Matt's fault. So we like exactly what Matt said. We have to remember that any quote unquote diet is a temporary frame of mind. If you're someone that believes the ketogenic lifestyles fits you, in my opinion, it would only fit people that don't digest carbs well, which I would actually argue you need to just address the actual root cause there rather than just running from it. Or there is actually a lot of proof that from a neurological aspect is actually quite surprisingly beneficial, in my opinion. So if you are like someone that's really struggling neurologically, you might find that carbs are probably draining you more than feeding you, which is very likely for a multiple range of reasons. Or if there's any neurological health disorders, it's actually been found that ketogenic diets can actually really help with this from like a fat perspective. However, as Matt said, again, it doesn't mean, oh, that means I can just have 50 grams of fat per meal and that's it. And no, there's still a calorie aspect to it, and fats are a lot more calorie dense than carbs and proteins. In other words, you'd actually eat less if you were just eating fat. Another thing that people really miss out on and are quite oblivious to because they just focus on the carb load is that protein is quite insulinogenic. So for example, whey protein can spike insulin. So if you're having like your freaking 1 gram of protein per pound with your high fat and your low carbs, you're probably not ketogenic. Stop lying to yourself, because the spike of protein will actually stimulate insulin. And that's what you're trying to, so insulin is reduced, like response from the pancreas to a spike in blood sugar. And spike in blood sugar can occur from a protein intake too. So realistically, if you truly want to be ketogenic, which I've never done with my clients long term, never, and just want to point out there, then you would actually have to go incredibly low carb. I think like a handful of berries can be too much in some cases. Very moderate protein, which is probably not great if you're trying to build tissue. Neither is the low carbs, to be fair, and then a high amount of fat.
Good. So I just want to point out this is why I was trying to say that it's got a name called keto, which is trying to refer to a process called ketogenesis, and it backs all its science on the ketogenesis process. But in reality, the thing that makes it work is more so the reduction in calories, because people excessively eat carbohydrates. That's the reason why it works. But they always back it up with the ketogenesis science, which technically is what you're pointing out is very, very hard to achieve. And actually, most people don't even ever get into that point.
Exactly.
So it becomes down to a fad diet of carb reduction diet, which is calorie reduction at the end of the day.
Yeah. And also you need to remember that. Sorry, Tyler, go on.
But to try and simplify it, the keto, diet is trying to get your body to run off fat rather than off carbs. But what I see a lot happening is that these people who's going on the keto diet aren't actually replacing the carbs with fats. So they're basically having, a pretty high protein diet with salads and not having any healthy fats. So they're actually going, oh, do you know what? I can have fat in my diet and reaching for really unhealthy things, which I'm not keen at all on keto diet.
No, from a performance aspect, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, in all honesty. But you also have to remember that many processes in the body require, so the best way to explain it in the most black and white stable is carbs give us energy, protein helps us repair, fats help us run optimally, i.e. hormones, chemical reactions. Like there's vitamins that require fat to be digested, like fat soluble vitamins, right? All these things like vitamin D. The vitamin D is massively important from a fat intake as well. And again, there's so much to this that people are not aware of. And it's really bloody annoying. By the way, I wasn't referring to vitamin D being a fat soluble vitamin. That's from this point out. I've just pretty much corrected myself. Sorry. But the one thing that you have to remember is if you're chasing a goal and you're like, I want to get leaner, then you have to remember that is just a calorie deficit to get leaner. But there is also so many health issues and so many health precautions you have to take. So most people that go keto, they're like, oh, I've tried everything, it doesn't work, so that's going to be the secret. I'm not going to lie to you, virtually everyone that's ever said to me the ketogenic diets have worked for them basically means that carbs don't digest well for them. Whether that can mean that they're consuming carbs that are really crappy, processed, and don't digest well for whatever reason, or they're having the wrong types, or they genuinely do have bacterial issues that are fermenting all the time. Like I went for a stage where I had to go very low carb because every time I ate a carb, I was obviously overgrowing mold, as most people know, that fed on every type of carb known to man. So I had to go low carb, not zero, but to almost starve that off. So what I'm trying to say is, if you find the ketogenic diet works for you, not gonna lie to you, you've got an underlying health issue, in my opinion, that you need to address. It's not that carbs are the enemy and you're genetically modified to not have carbs. Everyone can have carbs. Obviously, when it comes to diabetes, stuff like that, there are different factors there. But from an evolutionary standpoint, our brains are carb-hungry organs. Our muscles are predominantly carbohydrate-based. How we run and produce energy comes with carbohydrates. And you get these people that really annoy me, like, oh, if I just have loads of protein, that'll get converted to carbs anyway. While it's true, it does. Do you have any idea how stressful that process is on the body? That is ridiculously stressful. That's like saying, oh, I haven't got a metaphor in my head here. That's like saying, imagine you had a tiny hole, and I can't see me, I've done a map. You have a tiny hole, right? And you're like, right, I have to get this bit of Play-Doh, because I have kids, but for a very tiny hole that it doesn't fit. So like saying protein converts to carbs, that's like saying, right, I'm going to get a 3-inch thick bit of Play-Doh for a tiny hole that's like tiny, just to give you a reference, like a keyhole. So how hard would that be to push and squeeze and force that Play-Doh through that hole? Now imagine the stress that is to do that. Whereas if you just had some nice glucose from carbs readily available, it's a little pin size that'll go straight through that hole. It's like that. So you're forcing the body to try and basically adapt to something that is already stressful. So why not just give it what it wants? And like I said, and it goes back to that same thing where if your health status isn't in a great place, it's probably just you're either masking an issue or you could actually be creating another one. So if you have liver dysfunction, which sounds very extreme and very out there, but I will be honest with you, I read bloods on a weekly basis. It is very likely that if someone has inflammation, they're overweight, there is some level of liver dysfunction, whether it's elevated liver enzymes, and I'm talking from a functional range, not your normal range, or they've got high bilirubin, or they haven't got the mineral content there to actually have their liver operate well, the lymphatic system screwed, stuff like that. You running on a high fat diet, when your liver's already struggling, your liver is what releases bile, and then obviously your gallbladder as well, to then help digest fats. So if it's already struggling, you've just tripled the load. So people always think you are what you eat. It's not that black and white. So you are what you eat, digest, excrete, absorb, all that stuff. So if you, just because you put something in your mouth, doesn't mean it's going to magically click, work well, digest. So for example, I'm at 40 grams of fat a day, maybe 50 now, I can't even know off the top of my head. I know for a fact that if you even gave me that 2 months ago, that would have destroyed me. I had very poor bile secretion because I had a lot of liver blockage. Now, I'm someone that wants to be on 3,000 calories a day, and I had to whack my carbs up to make up that gap at that time, you know? So this is where you have to be, everything is tailored, everything's individual, but just whacking up fats because you have a gap in your calories can actually be quite harmful in the long run. If you have liver issues, and that can be actually quite a dangerous thing to do. You're just going to create more blockage and more issues and more stress. It's just making sense, guys.
Yeah, it makes loads of sense. It's funny. I was given a book for Christmas or birthday, I can't remember, and it was about basically a meat diet. Not sure if it was paleo diet or it was labelled as something else. And basically, it started off quite interesting. You know, with reading it, and it went on to this section which basically said the acronym for carbs, CARB, and it said carbs are really bad in this book. That's what the acronym for carbs was. And it's just basically saying the whole section was we shouldn't eat carbs, they're bad for us, if blah, 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 blah. And I just thought that's really a bad book because it's given the wrong message. It's given that it didn't go into any of the reasons why. It literally just trying to send out a almost like a COVID message of, you know, carbs are bad, you know, and it was absolutely ridiculous. So there are benefits to having carbs. Go on, no, go on, you tell it.
Just about that comment with the carbs there. Where's that place that on earth that people live the longest, and their diet is consistently, you know, 80% carbs? Where is that place? where is that place? Have you heard about that? They live till they're over 100 years old.
It all comes down to heritage. It's actually the length of your digestive tract, because it goes by, well, who is without being too hippie there was a guy that ran an experiment, doctor something, one of the mentors in our group, Brendan, was going through it, and it was amazing what he found. So basically the length of your GI tract, you found through heritage in different places, were incredibly longer. So whether you were predominantly meat based, like from heritage, or predominantly more fruits and veggies, think like Mediterranean, the length of your digestive tract was incredibly different based on your heritage. So people that were forced to eat more fruits and veggies because they lived in the Mediterranean would have a completely different aspect. So their digestive tract would be suited for that slower digestive tract, whether people that were more heritage from like eating meat, fish, whatever, would be the polar opposite, because obviously they don't sit as heavy, they go straight through in a way. Do you see what I mean? So it always down to heritage. And this is why people say, like, someone from Britain like myself eating coconut oil and pineapple is probably not a very clever thing if you want to be super, super strict, because my ancestors would never have seen a coconut. Like, when the hell would I have bumped into a coconut in Croydon? Do you know what I mean? Like, it never would have happened. So there is that argument. One thing I want to quickly clarify, guys, when I went on my little tangent now, I got a bit thrown off. I think I said that vitamin D is not a fat-soluble vitamin, which is actually incorrect. So I get really anal about stuff like that. I think I went on a tangent and said that before I get corrected by one of you guys. I do apologize. I literally said it after. I was like, did I just say vitamin D wasn't? Because I was getting thrown by keto. It threw me off a bit.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify on that. My bad.
Yeah,
For education from my aspect.
Correction noted.
I think we covered that one off. The next thing we were talking about was some of the bullshit that we're exposed to, isn't it? And trying to cut through some of this bullshit that's almost it's everywhere. We're surrounded by it, particularly on social media, more so than anything. And I think the things that we were talking about in particular were some of these influencer created training kind of methods, and following the training methods of a Instagram star or something like that, and maybe that's not the right thing to do. So
it's gone around for years. Look at Sylvester Stallone and doing the pull downs behind the neck. He did that first, and then everyone got shoulder issues very, very quickly. And that was probably one of the, if someone said to you the earliest time you ever saw something like that, it probably would have been that. Or that's what raises all the way up to your ear, which a lot of old school bodybuilders used to do. There's a lot of stuff,
So, I mean, Tyler...
Silence! Break the silence!
I stopped. I give 2 references and I'm going to stop because I'll be here for another half hour.
Trying to process just some of the crazy things, actually, that I've seen recently. And one of the really frustrating ones for me is actually people in the gym, and they're using equipment. There's all these weights in the gym, and they're grabbing bands and cables thinking that they're going to be able to build and develop that fit looking figure through bands. And what's that movement called where you stand up and you hold on to the pole, and then you take one of your legs backwards towards the back, a kickback, with maybe 3 bars on it. And that is not going to develop the glutes that people are seeing on this Instagram video that the woman's actually got on it. She has been doing some heavy lifting, some squats, hip thrusts, you name it. There's definitely been a heavy load to create that bum. And to then show people this is how you build a bum through bands, doing like crab walks and them kickbacks, it's really frustrating, because then you see people at the gym doing the same things and they're not getting results, which can then really knock people's confidence.
But you have to remember, right? So that lady you're referring to, whoever she is, now you have to look at this from both ends. So obviously that is you're completely right in what you're saying. Kickbacks did not grow the glutes. I'm guaranteed there was a hip extension, a hip thrust, a deadlift in there, right? A leg press and stuff. However, you need to remember, so a fit influencer, most of them don't have jobs. They live at home with mum and dad. They get paid by views. They get paid by comments. They get paid by exposure. Now, if she did a very unattractive video of her doing some heavy hip thrust, screaming, looking like she's constipated, that's not going to get likes. That's not sexy. Do you see what I mean? So
or doing a squat, which is everybody does squats or a leg press or
exactly
standard stuff. It's not sexy, is it?
Look at these ladies that are freaking strong and they slap chalk on their hands, they scream, they have knee wraps, all that stuff on, and they're powerlifters. They have 2,000 followers. Now look at the Instagram model that gets paid probably that woman's yearly salary just to sip on a drink while wearing booty pants, drinking back with a band on, because that is sexy and that is quote unquote girly. And this is what frustrates me about the industry. Like it is like crab walks, kickbacks on the Stairmaster, all these things.
Steps to build a booty with a band,
mate. It's I'm telling you now. One of my clients, Kate, is obviously one of many examples that people can use. Just my own one I use. All we did was perfected a 90-degree hip extension, which people do not know how to extend your hip, which is the main driver of a glute, right? So perfected that. We smashed hip thrust. We did lunges properly, Bulgarian split squats, and leg pressing. There was no kickback. There was no kickbacks on the Stairmaster. There was no bands around the knees. There was none of that shit. It's just the basics that work. If you study the anatomy, the more you study the anatomy, the more you realize half the stuff you learn is bullshit. It is very, very true, right? Don't get me wrong, you can be out there. Anyone who watches my training stories knows I'm out there. Matt's quite similar as well, to be fair. But that is when you just want to get that extra 5%. So I don't like doing pec deck flies because I don't like my forearm engagement. So I'll put a cuff on my elbow to skip out that 10% of my forearm engaging. That's just me being the OCD bellend that I am. But it doesn't mean that a pec deck fly doesn't work. It just means it's not, in my opinion, as optimal as it could be. And I like being optimal. I chase optimization. It's just something I do. So again, it's the basics still, just making it a bit more tailored to me, you know? And this is where people have to remember, if you're trying to build a booty and you're a lady, lying leg curls, managing hip extensions, RDLing properly, even rat pulling to a decent depth, obviously, and then hip thrusts and lunges and Bulgarian split squats, those are probably the staples. If you're not making those, if you're doing a kickback over any of those, you're missing a lot, a hell of a lot. Rant over. That was quite a short one.
What about you? What frustrating fitness fad have you seen? What have you seen any recently that?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are horrific, aren't they? I mean, the ones that stand out for me are the ones where particularly in a machine where they're sitting around the opposite way to the machine, complete or. There's quite a few. There's one doing a kickback on a lying leg curl. Where they've got the pad underneath their kind of leg knee pit, and then they're kicking back like that. I mean, that's just a ridiculous movement. You see them on the adductor machine facing the opposite way round to the machines and doing that. There are a lot of misuse of machine just because it looks like, wow, this has got to work. This sexy girl's using it, or this sexy guy's using it, and he's doing it this way, and everybody follows it. But the worst one ever was I actually seen the Instagram post where someone had two dumbbells stood up on their edges, and then the person was stood on top of the dumbbells whilst doing a deadlift, or I think it was a deadlift, stiff leg deadlift. Now, the actual risk and danger in doing that, there's no real benefit really when you could use the stable platform to create a deficit. You could have used a step or anything. I just couldn't understand the point of standing on some really unsafe and dumbbells. And what happened was, in the gym that I train at, one of the girls actually seen that video, and I seen her the very next day or that week in the gym, standing on two dumbbells with the ankles wobbling and the knees wobbling, and the stress going through those joints, where we're trying to maximize the load into the muscle, not into the joints. And then the risk if she fell off that as well is, that kind of thing is dangerous. That she could have snapped a leg, broken a leg, and not been able to train for months or years.
The funny thing is, she'll probably do the whole, I'm working my stability. Do a one-legged lunge, a static lunge, or do a walking lunge, and see how good your balance is. Most people can't even do that, and they're trying to stand on a freaking dumbbell or a bicycle. If she was a tightrope walker,
You know, or someone requiring some form of stability through their ankles and knees, because they required balance, then you could maybe argue the case slightly, but even still, the load issues having to put through to try and this was a muscle building exercise. It wasn't a balance enhancing exercise. So there are exercises to create strength through the joints, the ankles and the knees. That one wasn't for that purpose. It was,
again, if you follow the routes to that, there'll be an influencer trying to make money off that program. There will be something that she's trying to, or he or she's trying to be different, and that's where that's come from. Guarantee it. That's
the case. So sorry, Tyler. For someone who's not educated or trained, seeing these people who do have amazing physiques doing these things, it must be quite confusing, because even Tyler, you said about using bands and things. I think you were specifically referring to like hip bands and stuff, but there are real benefits if used properly to putting a band on a machine, because most machines, the tension throughout the range of movement isn't always ideal to our body mechanics, and so by adding bands, we can change that tension throughout the range, and so there are benefits to using bands in the right way. But that's not a fad. Someone who's doing that wouldn't necessarily even know the machine was loaded with bands. But I have used hip circles in the past, and I think they're a good warm up to if you're doing a crab walk or something like that as the very first exercise to get blood flow into.
As an activation, yeah.
But not as a muscle building. Not halfway through the set after squats, then adding crab walks with a hip circle. The hip circle goes in first as an activation, so there are times when you would use them, but these influencers are clearly saying this is in my booty workout to grow my booty. This is how I grow my booty, which gives the wrong message and the wrong kind of.
And to build any muscle group, and this goes for any person, male, female, bikini, normal, bodybuilder, average Joe at a desk, whatever. To build muscle requires efficient stimulus to the muscle. It requires constant progression. It requires recovery, and it requires actual stimuli to that muscle. So if you're doing a barbell bench press, I've just done 100, but all you feel is your shoulders, you're not building your chest. Like, it's not as black, believe it or not, it's not actually as black and white as if you don't feel it, you don't grow it, because spend time mastering feeling connections to that said muscle group. So your lats, you're doing depression for your shoulder, like look at what the muscle does, follow that range of motion, and then work through it. And then once you start feeling it, load that movement. So find movements that work for you. Every individual has different hip shapes. Every individual has a different rib cage depth. So for example, a barbell bench might work well for me, but someone that has a really flat rib cage, it wouldn't work at all. It would just be their shoulders and triceps taking the load. So it's this is very unique, hence why coaches are so valuable. But find movements that work for you, ignore the bullshit, and then just master those movements. Anyone that watches my training stories, it's the same thing every week. I don't care if it's boring, it's not for me. And you just 4 kilos up, 2 reps up, 3 reps up, whatever. That progression is all you're chasing. It is boring building muscle tissue. Stop chasing the sexy little banded workout when it isn't. It's nothing sexy. It's actually incredibly boring to build muscle tissue from a programming perspective.
It's a bit like building the Great Wall of China. It's literally just cement, mortar and bricks, and repeat that every single day.
For 10 years.
I absolutely. A lot of people will say, it's boring, but as you two know, like that time that we go through them repetitive movements and beating ourselves that little bit each time, like, it's a good feeling, man, isn't it? Like,
you'll never beat that feeling where you've looked at your logbook and gone, right, like my press today was, I did 100 last time, but I feel really good. And I was like, I have a feeling I'm going to get 110. I have no idea why I felt like I'll get 110. And then I got 110. See, for me, that makes my day. Like, but for everyone else would look at that as boring and sad. I understand that. But when you're in this, it's not boring, but the process is boring. There's nothing sexy to it. But chasing a logbook, so I see that if you're mentally strong enough to almost punish your body every day sensibly to chase progress, you're a different level of mindset. I personally believe that.
I
It's a
agree.
good point. It's a good point because we talked about it before on this podcast just earlier on around PTs, and I think what you're talking about now is a level of maturity and experience with your training that you've got to. So what you're enjoying is the results and the seeing the progression each week. When you first start this journey, what is really good is the pain. It's that beating your balls up and then getting those DOMs afterwards. That's what feels the best then, because it's like, wow, this is aching, it must be working. And I think as a PT, when you're starting off, you know, if you were to repeat the same thing every single week with your client, they'd get bored with that very quickly. They'd be saying to you, I'm not aching this week. What, is it not working? You know, so as a PT, they're looking for a different exercise to hurt them, to try. So they go, oh yeah, I'm aching again this week. It must be working response. And again, you know, for anyone who's even without a PT, you know, they're chasing the DOMs, they're chasing that pain, and doesn't mean progression. That's a different scenario. DOMs do not mean progression, and in fact, what you want to try to do is in a progressive model is DOM avoidance. You don't want to be in fact, if you get DOMs, then you've got your progression model wrong. So I think this is where people's mentality changes. It evolves. The longer you do this, when you start to see your numbers go up on a week-by-week basis, you will start to get more efficient at your movement. You will start to see more results. Your shape will change quicker, and you won't actually be absolutely aching so you can't move on a day-by-day basis. And the enjoyment comes from seeing your rep ranges go up, or your rep numbers, your weight go up, or your set volume go up each week. You know, that's what's enjoyable. And I think that is a really interesting point to point out to people, because people are often chasing the wrong thing, and it doesn't give the same outcomes as what they want. So more effective training with a progressive model, consistently rinse and repeat the same thing over and over again, but just get better at it. So slow the movement down, control the movement, increase the reps, etc., etc., etc. That's where we should be looking to. Every single person wanting to get stronger, change shape, should be following that model.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. Do you know, I actually find the time that I train is the only real time in the day that my body and my mind work together like at 100%, like 100% in sync. And that's an amazing feeling, I find.
Well, so you've naturally done this yourself, and I like to liken this to, you know, obviously a meditation is a process whereby that separates your thoughts. You know, it takes you away from those thoughts in the back of your head and all that. You know, I think that what you're talking about, that scenario there, has a similar outcome to a meditation session. What you're doing is you're totally focused on that moment, on the training. You've took out all the stress from the day, all the thoughts of worry or whatever, and you've now dedicated that hour's time to completely focus on that. And I definitely think it's a similarity to meditation. It's what I see as my form of meditation. It's my time out from all the other daily stresses and what my brain thinks about on a second to minute basis.
Exactly. You have a 90-minute window where you're almost in your own element, in your own space. And like, this is why I hate, obviously you see people at the gym, but that's my time. Like, and I'm with anything, like say I had loads of business stuff going on, doesn't matter. If I had family stuff going on, doesn't matter. Like, we're going to the zoo tomorrow. I will still do my cardio. I will still do it's almost like my 90 minutes of therapy a day. I have to do that. Lockdown taught us all that if we don't do that, what happens? So absolutely. And I see that as everyone has a lazy part to them, and going to the gym, and this is what training is in a black and white format, to willingly self-harm in an intelligent manner. You are destroying tissue in a sensible manner, if that makes sense. To willingly do that to the point where you know it's going to hurt, but you still do it. You still add the 2.5 kilo, you still add the 5 kilo, you still do it. I hate split squats, I still freaking do them every Tuesday. Doing something you don't enjoy will make you a stronger person. Tyler is a walking example of that in the SAS. And again, it's that, like, for example, we all know I hate cold therapy. Every time I go for a run, I have a cold shower. I have a massive 30-minute build up to like shitting myself. I still just get under there, shout at myself and just do it. It's by doing one thing a day that you don't believe you want, that you don't want to do, will make, you'll be a role model to your kids. You'll be a role model to everyone around you. You will be that beacon of just. What's
that famous saying? There's probably a lot of them, but it's something like if you're not uncomfortable, then make yourself uncomfortable. You know, if you're not having uncomfortable,
there's no progress in a comfortable state, right? That sort of mindset.
Yeah. Like that, isn't it?
Yeah, if it doesn't scare you, what's it? If it doesn't scare,
get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's yeah.
It's something like if it doesn't scare you, it won't serve you, or something like that. So if you don't do something that's going to scare you, then it's not going to help you. You just the human bodies are very.
I'm going to take that word. Actually, I quite like that. Instead of now me saying I'm going training, I'm just going to say I'm going to meditate. I quite like that one.
It's true. Going to church.
It is, yeah. That's been the style.
It's your form of meditation.
Yeah.
See, I find training partners, though, it depends, obviously, because I've had a couple in my time, but I'm predominantly trained by myself. And I'm one of those people where if I train with someone, that's great, but I get scared of the energy. And it's not a dig at anyone, really. It's just, I have my way of doing things. I have my OCDness, the way I train. If a bit of the session's me talking to them or talking about their day, like if I was to train with someone, that'd have to be the similar thing where we go for a purpose. That sounds like a meathead, but you go to the gym for a reason. It's time to get away, but there's also a progress. You've got 90 minutes to progress.
I've been really lucky because I've had a number of training partners over the years, and at the minute, obviously it's with Joe, but me and Joe have got the same training cycle. But when we go, we don't talk to each other. We literally train, and it's not like we ignore each other. We talk a little bit, but during our sets and even in between sets, it's all timed. We might talk a little bit, but the session is our session. It's my session. It's Joe's.
That would be a perfect session for me. If I was to have a training partner, that's what kind I would need.
Because you basically got a spotter. That's basically it. You've not got a friend, you've got a spotter. Yeah. That's valuable as fuck. That really is.
I'm lucky. And prior to Joe, I trained with a guy called Luke Nichols there for almost a decade, and we trained every day for a decade, and there was the same there. So I've been extremely lucky to be able to have training partners for quite a large chunk of my bodybuilding career.
That is, I genuinely say that's priceless.
Okay, guys. So I think we answered that question, and we are coming up to an hour, and it's a prime opportunity for us to keep it at an hour. So, I mean, we can start wrapping it up here. But I mean, what are the steps? What have we got planned for next week? Have we got someone coming on? I know, Jamie, you were speaking with your friend.
Yep, Sophie, I'm talking with her at the moment on getting her on for female health. So menstrual cycles, Sophie's basically an expert in that field. So I've got to speak to her. So it could be next week. We'll announce it and let everyone know. But if not, I'm sure we'll have something else to go on in the meantime. But I've already appeared on her podcast, which is going live soon as well. So obviously, I've then naturally invited her onto ours as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyone else, guys? Matt, you've got someone as well, right? That you wanted to bring on.
I have, yes, Sarah Parker Hatchard. She's a bikini pro athlete. I can't remember the topic. She wanted to talk about a specific topic. Let me just find it quickly. Where is it? Bear with me.
I believe it was around mindset, wasn't it?
It was a mindset thing, and I thought it was really good for Tyler to be able to chip in as well. I can't find it. And it's
right. We'll announce it later on. Well, probably over the weekend, and let everyone know exactly what's going on. But the idea is we want to have guests on at least every 3 weeks or every other week, just to keep it
at least once a month. Once a month.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, at least.
Just to keep that going, and there's plenty of guests in the pipeline, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've answered your questions well. Hopefully. And that was all the questions, right, guys?
Yeah, that was actually really good. I think that we've covered a lot of really useful subjects there that people, you know, will find quite interesting, and actually went quite deep into them as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and obviously the listener base is getting bigger and bigger. And so if you are listening, please don't be shy. Please fire questions to our Instagram account, or even our personal business Instagram accounts. Are all, you know, you should know where they are. So contact either me, Jamie, or Tyler, or the Mind Muscle HQ on Instagram, and just ask us questions. We're happy to pick anything up. And like we said in the past, if we can't answer them, we will get people on the show to be able to answer them for you. So yeah, please fire questions our way.
Yeah.
I was thinking we should try and get a jingle soon, because it'd be cool to have some kind of, you know, like funky jingle at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah, I think we need a jingle.
Yeah, I'm happy either way. A super serious one, because we're serious.
HQ, and maybe some little bits of training on the start and get it on YouTube, you know.
Yeah, well, that's a question out to the listeners. Would people, you know, are our listeners wanting to just listen to it on a podcast form, or would they be interested in watching it as well, watching us? Maybe not me or Jamie, watching Tyler definitely on YouTube. You know, if that's a possibility that you fancy, we can do that. So just let us know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was inferring that me and Jamie are both ugly and you're not, Tyler. So.
Well, I don't know about that, because what I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to take these battle braids out very soon, and I think I'm going to have an afro.
Sounds cool. Afro will be cool.
Tyler changes her look. Me and Matt look exactly the same each week, so nothing changes.
Not there. All right, guys, I enjoyed that one. Thank you for listening and joining me today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we'll come back next week.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Bye now.